This is my second time recording this because this mic is so freaking sensitive that my voice was way too loud and it was clipping the audio. So I'm going to put it super low on my shirt here, and hopefully that'll fix the issue. Oh gosh, there's something in my eye. Oh, that's not good for the allergies. Okay. Ugh. Hail, fellow travelers. Tim from Secret Fire Books here. I realized that I don't usually talk about my own books and my own writing here on the channel. When I originally started Secret Fire Books, I intended it to be sort of an outlet to promote my fellow indie authors' work. I intended to focus more on other indie creators and promote their stuff, and I still do occasionally. Not as much as I used to. I wish I could. And there's so much stuff that I want to read, so much stuff I want to cover. But I try to promote my fellow indies every once in a while. I feel honor bound to do that at least. But I've never really talked about my own writing process, and I've only occasionally brought up my own books, usually when I'm shilling for them in little spots in the middle or at the end of my videos. I posted a few recordings of my short stories, some audio recordings that I've made of my short stories here on the channel, but that's about the length of it. But I realized that it wouldn't hurt to do a sort of a video journal, I guess, like a vlog series, to sort of record my thoughts on my current projects, and in that way I could at least have a way to look back on my work and see whenever I go off the beaten path, whenever I go off script, kind of reorientate. Reorientate, is that even a word? I don't think it is. I'm a writer. I should know these things. But yeah, to get myself back on track if I ever veer off script. And so if you guys aren't really interested in this kind of thing, if you're really on the channel just for, the vintage science fiction and fantasy reviews, then feel free to turn this video off, because it's just going to be me rambling about my projects that I'm working on at the moment. Now, I have quite a few projects in the work right now. I have some short stories that I've been working on, some that I intend to publish in my next issue of my Necromancer zine, other stories that I intend to send off, to submit to other magazines on the internet, and hopefully they'll have me. We'll see. But yeah, I'm working on quite a few stories in the meantime. The big project, though, that I'm working on right now is I'm actually writing a novel. It's been a while since I've attempted to write a novel, because the last one I wrote had a massive plot hole in it that I just couldn't work around. That was my attempt at writing a full-length novel about my character, Visago the Vile, my sort of thief, assassin, rogue character. And so that didn't work out too well, so I kind of stopped trying to write a novel after that. And I didn't pick it up again until earlier this month, when I was inspired to try something that I didn't even know was a thing. I've heard recently that there was like some kind of event, I don't know if it still happens, but some kind of event where independent writers try to write an entire novel within a month. This is a concept that I knew nothing about, but someone brought it up to me in a recent video in the comments. And I was like, that sounds pretty interesting. And I thought about it, and I know I've talked about Michael Moorcock a few times on this channel. He's one of my favorite writers. He has written a ton of books, just a ton of books of various different genres, and he's been doing it for a long time, ever since the 60s, I think, or maybe even the 50s. He's still writing to this day, God bless him. He's still writing stories well into his 80s. So the man is just a machine. But I know that in his earlier career, he pumped out a bunch of short novels to help fund New Worlds magazine, which was the magazine that he was editing at the time. And so whenever he needed new funds for the magazine, he would just write a bunch of really simple science fiction or fantasy novels and get them published and use that money to fund his magazine. And so he would pump these out really quick. I think he said once that it only took him about a month to write the entire Hawkmoon series, which is impressive. I mean, some of those later Hawkmoon books are but the first one, The Jewel in the Skull, is a fantastic sort of post-apocalyptic sword and sorcery novel. I love that book. And then I also think he claimed to have written the first 3 Quorum Chronicles books in something like a week, which is amazing to me. In fact, when I first heard that, I was just getting started on my Michael Moorcock journey. I'd only ever read his Elric stories. And so when I heard that he'd written an entire trilogy of fantasy novels in a week, I was like, oh man, I got to check these out and see if they're any good. And to my surprise, those Quorum books are great. They're actually some of my favorite fantasy novels to this day. So I know that it's possible to, maybe not possible for everybody, but it's at least possible for Michael Moorcock to write really good fiction in a short amount of time. And I know he's not the only one who's done that. There were a bunch of other authors from the pulp era all the way through the new wave of science fiction era who were writing novels in that similar vein. They were writing really short, pulpy stuff in a very constrained amount of time. But I figured if they could do it, surely I could do that with at least one novel. I could give it a shot. And so that's what I've been doing. I started writing this sort of Sword and Planet science fiction novel. I say that it's really just a fantasy novel that takes place on Mars. It's very pulpy, it's very goofy, but that's something that I figured had a sort of easy premise that I could work with and really bang out a first draft really quickly. So that's what I've been working on. I'm tentatively naming this project The Death God of Mars. I started writing it on May 4th, I believe, and as of recording, it is May 10th. This will probably go up on the 11th, but as of this recording, it is currently May 10th. I got a lot of the writing done last night. I actually finished the 4th chapter last night, and I intend to start the 5th chapter as soon as I'm done recording this video. So I've got quite a bit of it done so far. It is, like I said, it is a Sword and Planet story, kind of in the vein of Edgar Rice Burroughs' Barsoom series. It is written in that tradition, as they say, but I intend to make it kind of like a grim parody, a loving parody, but a grim, dark, twisted parody of the Sword and Planet planetary romance genre, where I don't intend to like totally dissect this thing, but I do intend to like take some elements of that classic genre and break them down a little bit. And what's the word I'm looking for? Deconstruct certain aspects of that classic genre and kind of bend them in a way to show what the genre can do, in my opinion. And so yeah, it's gonna have a lot of references to old school pulp fiction, old school science fantasy stuff, but it's very much written in my dark, cynical style. It's weird. I find writing, I find writing dark, depressing, or at the very least, scary kind of stories a lot easier than writing good, wholesome, family-friendly stuff. My mom tells me all the time that I need to read a children's book. Oh, you should write a children's book. You'd be so good at it. Mom, I need there to be decapitations in my story, and you can't put decapitations in a kid's book. So, yeah, that's what The Death God of Mars is shaping up to be. As far as the plot is concerned, it's about this guy named Orrin Shaw, Corporal Orrin Shaw. He is a former U.S. Marine. The beginning of the story actually takes place in the mid-2000s during the Iraqi War. He's this U.S. Marine who served during the Iraqi War. And during a mission where he and his troop were clearing out an enemy bunker, they overlooked a C4 charge that was planted there. And it explodes and brings the whole bunker down on them. And the only people who survive, the only person who survives this collapse of this bunker is Orrin Shaw. The rest of his crew is killed instantly, and he's the only one the medics managed to pull out alive, and his legs are mangled beyond saving. And so the military doctors have to amputate his legs. And so he gets sent back home to America with an honorable discharge, and he finds readjusting to civilian life very difficult. He has this kind of stubborn warrior's pride. He feels like, if he didn't die back in Iraq, then he wasn't really doing his duty. He has kind of this survivor's guilt, I guess. And so he finds adjusting back to his regular life in America very difficult. He has a falling out with his family. He has a falling out with his girlfriend. His girlfriend actually ends up leaving him for another man. and he ends up getting kicked out of the house by his parents, and he's too stubbornly prideful to shack up with any of his friends and bunk with them for a while till he gets back on his feet. And so he ends up just living on the street as a homeless man. And it's during his homelessness one day that he just ends up getting teleported to Mars. I know it's this very kind of abrupt shift in tone, but he gets teleported to Mars. And while he's there, he gets immediately captured by Martians. And the Martians, in my version of this kind of genre, are these sort of crustacean-like humanoids. They're human-shaped, but they have these sort of chitinous armor plates covering their bodies, like a crab or like an insect, I guess. And so they capture him immediately because this poor guy doesn't have any legs. He's teleported to Mars without the assistance of any crutches or a wheelchair or anything. So he's quickly captured by these Martians who imprison him in a dungeon. And while he's wasting away in this dungeon, he is visited by an entity that calls itself Tiralit, the goddess of order. And I might talk about her at length in another video. But she claims to be the goddess of law and order. And according to her, this version of Mars, this Mars that is actually billions of years in the past, back when Mars had a breathable atmosphere that could support humanoid life, it had mountains and forests and valleys and rivers and stuff. She claims that this Mars it's in disarray, it's in disorder. It has become this barbaric, war-torn planet that is under the oppressive thumb of the god of death. And so as the goddess of order, the self-proclaimed goddess of order, Tiralit has been looking for a warrior to bring to Mars and set things right so that history can be set right and that the planet Mars can be brought to heel, essentially. And so she has chosen Oren Shaw. She heals his legs. She restores his missing legs. He's made whole again, miraculously. And he's given a magic sword, and he's told, you're going to do a favor for me. You are going to hunt down the god of death who has Mars under his control. And you are going to kill him, and you're going to restore order here on Mars so that history can be set right. And so that's his mission. Oren Shaw has to find a way to get out of this dungeon and kill the god of Mars. So that's literally all I've written so far. That's what I finished writing last night. That's where the story is currently. And like I said, it'll have lots of references to old-fashioned Sword and Planet kind of stories, but it will very much be this sort of dark parody of the genre, and I'll hopefully be able to twist it in some interesting directions. I'm not gonna do what George R. R. Martin or Joe Abercrombie does with fantasy. I'm not gonna totally break it down to the point where it's unrecognizable, but I'm gonna give it some darkly twisted alterations here and there to hopefully show off what this genre can do, in my opinion. So that's it. That's what I have for you guys for now. I'll eventually get back with some more information when I have more information about this project I'm working on. But until then, as always, guys, farewell and keep reading.